Hi again. Now we're back to build the nose, the final big structure, except for the ear. Um, so we're at this stage with the eye and the mouth modeled in the way we want them. There's always room for endless tweaking, but let's just leave that for now. Um, I have gone through and I've moved some of my points around to sort of match my tissue depth markers a little bit. Not perfectly, you can see some are poking out too much, some are poking out too little, but I'll continue to tweak them as I go, and as I add more resolution, it'll be easier to accommodate them. But what we want to do now is build out the nose, and we're going to do that by extruding it 3 times. I'll do one video for each extrusion because it's kind of complicated and it's really easy to get lost. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our geometry is flowing nicely around the nose. So I've got my skull up here, so I can sort of see. Now, my person has quite a wide nose. You can see the nasal aperture is quite wide, so I'm trying to accommodate that here. Let me just turn off the gradient, it's so distracting. But so I've got my vertices here under the nose. Got this one sort of reaching out to the side, sort of going up the side of the nose this way. Looked at from the side, you can see, oh, maybe this one needs to come down a little bit. Now some of these I'm going to push back a little. This looks pretty good. You can see they're flowing out of the eye straight onto the nose. But that looks pretty good. It looks kind of extreme here the way it's pushed in, but we're going to be extruding this out to add more data. So let's go ahead and do that. Excuse me. I'm going to turn off those tissue depth markers and go into face mode, and then I'm going to select these 4 polygons here. The one at the end at nasali, and the ones that sort of cover the nasal aperture, and go to edit mesh extrude, hit W to go into move mode, and just pull them out a little bit. So now if we turn the model around, you'll see that there are extra faces created on the inside of the model that we don't want, so select those and delete them. Then we can go into the side view and just start moving these points down. So maybe I'll keep the side view and the perspective view open so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to go into vertex mode, select these points, and start to move them down onto the nose to help define the form. So I'm looking for, I want to help define, the bony ridge up here. I also want to try to build in the flow of the face along the nasolabial fold. So I'm gonna, try and structure that in a little bit. I'm pushing some of these points maybe too far back for now, but we'll get back later and fix them up. This one in the face seems too far down. I'm going to move that out. Again, it's a little extreme, but we'll fix it later. Okay, so now we've got some more structure here for building in the nose. Can maybe go into my side view, move these points in a little bit. Now I want to add a little more resolution in the nose going this way. So there's this big edge loop here that I want to add a little more resolution in. So I'm going to go into object mode, go to recent commands. I've got insert edge loop tool. And I'm going to subdivide this twice. One there and one there. And now I can start to work in more of the detail. Now this one here, this point that we had in the upper row that we just added, this is going to be sort of right underneath our nasolabial fold. So I'm going to push it back to where it needs to be. And then the one right underneath it I'm going to adjust, and this one So again, it's a little extreme right now, but we're just working in the structure. We can tweak it after. Okay. So if that's sort of the level of our nasolabial fold, then these points here are going to represent our nostril. So I'm going to pull them back a little bit, pull this one back, and then in the side view, I have to pull them out. Now I know this gets a little confusing, so easier to see if I go into X-ray mode, maybe. So I'm just pulling this out, putting that up. So you can see I've pulled these out to start to refine the shape of my nostril. Now it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, because all the noses, well, it's going to be different from between my model and yours anyway. Yours will be similar because you're all working on the same skull. But so we've got very roughly the nostrils worked in. We're continuing the flow of this big mass of flesh that runs along the above the nasolabial fold. You can see it's perhaps too harsh right now, especially if we look at some images. So here's this guy. He's got a clear nasolabial fold. So you can see it there. So that's this big piece of flesh here. Oops, is what we're working in here, right? So you see that there pretty clearly, I think. If I look at somebody who's a little more close to the age of the woman that I'm modeling, you'll see. Now let's see. I'm looking for a neutral pose. You can see that the nasolabial fold's not nearly as evident in a younger, in this case, thinner person. It's very difficult to make out, but there is a different plane of the face here. That piece of flesh is still coming down here. It's separate from the lip region. Now, in somebody like this who is smiling, then that becomes very clear, that nasolabial fold. But if they have more of a neutral expression, it disappears, although the structure is there, because when they smile, then it comes out. Okay, so that's what we're building in there, and we've really basically roughed in the nostrils. And in the next tutorial, we're going to do the next extrude. Okay.